Hey y'all, I hope you are as excited as I am about getting started in Google Classroom. This is a beginner's training for Google Classroom, and we're going to get your class set up and help you be able to navigate the platform. You can access this presentation on the Lex 3 Technology for Teachers site under the Google Classroom tab. And here are today's objectives. Again, we're going to look at how to navigate your classroom. We're going to compare announcements versus materials. We're going to learn about organizing your classroom with topics, as well as asking questions, posting assignments, and find out all about what Guardians can receive when you enable Guardian summaries. As a resource, I'm also going to be including a student guide to Google Classroom. Just a little bit about these training slides. I suggest that you take a minute and go ahead and pause the video and open a new tab so you can interact with your Google Classroom as we go along. So go ahead, press pause, and then go to classroom.google.com. And if it's your first time using Google Classroom, you'll need to get signed in. Please be aware that there may be links included in the training slides, and you'll want to click on them to be able to explore additional materials, resources, and examples. And don't forget to check the gray space. If you view this presentation in presentation mode, you might miss out on more information and how-tos that are included out here in the gray space. So make sure you check these out for additional information. And finally, credits and other additional links may be in the speaker notes at the bottom. So now let's consider why Google Classroom. What makes Google Classroom a beneficial platform for both teachers and students? First, you can easily make announcements and start class discussions. You're also going to be able to quickly and easily create and collect assignments without paper. You won't have any more stacks of papers to assess. Everything can be done digitally unless you choose to have a paper pencil addition to an assignment. You'll also be able to quickly grade assignments and provide actionable feedback to students so that they can make adjustments in their learning sooner. You can share a single document or provide students with their own copy of that document. And you can also allow students to have their own individual editable copy or have a collaborative copy for all of this class to edit. You can easily share links, videos, websites, anything that has a link you can share in Google Classroom. You'll be able to keep up with who has and has not completed assignments, and everything in your Google Classroom is going to be stored in the Drive. It'll be accessible in Google Classroom, but it's not stored there. And when you create a Google Classroom, Google automatically generates a Drive folder for your classes and the assignments in the class as well. So why is Google Classroom beneficial for students? Again, they're going to be able to access the announcements and participate in the class discussions that you provide. Their materials are also going to be organized efficiently in an automatically generated folder, so no more lost assignments. They'll be able to quickly access the feedback that you give them, again, so that they can make adjustments in their learning. They'll be able to use the stream and calendar to have important information at their fingertips, and they'll receive notifications of due dates and feedback, whether it be in their email or for older students that might already have personal devices like phones, they can get those notifications to get pushed directly to those devices. So let's take the tour. Once you're signed in, you'll notice the three lines on the left side of the screen, and that is the Classes menu. Here you'll see an explanation about what each of those items are. Number 1 takes you back home to all the class tiles. That's your main landing page in Google Classroom. 2 will take you to your Google Calendar, where all class assignments will be displayed on one calendar. Please be aware, though, that only assignments and items with due dates show up on the calendar for you and for students. 3 is where you click to go to items that are in need of review. 4 is classes where the user has a teacher role. So these are the classes in which you are the teacher. Also, in the next section, if your district is using Google Classroom for professional development, you may be a student in a Google Classroom. So 5 shows you a student to-do list, and 6 shows you the classes where you are actually in the student role in that particular Google Classroom. 7 will take you to archived classes in which you are a teacher or a student. And finally, 8 are your settings, and those are your entire Google Classroom settings, such as your profile picture and where you can go to set email notifications. The home page is a dashboard for viewing and accessing information about all of your classes, including classes in which you are a student. Notice the first class in blue, that is a class in which I am a student, and that is my teacher. So if you look closely on your home page to one of your individual classes, you can see a few options. It tells you the title of the class and how many students are in the class, as well as there are 3 dots that give you more options, including moving the class on your home page. You can edit or change the class name or description. You can make a copy of the class, and as well as archive the class at the end of the year. This does not delete the class. You also have at the bottom of each little class tile a jagged arrow to go directly to grades for that class, as well as a folder to go directly to the class folder on Drive. To create a class, on the Google Classroom homepage, you're going to click the plus and click Create Class. A pop-up on the screen will appear, and this is where you will name your class at least, and then you can create. You might also use the Join Class option if your district or school uses Google Classroom for professional learning communities. Now it's your turn. I want you to create a class. So you're going to pause the video in just a moment and go to your Google Classroom tab. You're going to create and name your class. And once the class has been created, take a moment to go to your Google Drive and locate the classroom folder that is auto-generated. Hint, you can use the folder icon on your classes page or in the classwork tab. Remember, do not delete this folder. This is where all the assignments and attachments that you put in Google Drive will be stored, as well as all of your students' work. Now we're going to look inside a class, first at the class stream. You'll notice the 3 lines in the top left corner. This is where you can view all of your classes or return home. On your header, you will see the title of your class as well as the class code. You can click on the little square to display your class code to your class. There's also a place for you to generate a Meet link if you're going to be using Google Meet with students in your Google Classroom. And finally, to the right, you can customize your class, including selecting from themes that Google has provided or uploading your own photo to use as your class header. Directly below the header, you'll see upcoming work to the left, as well as a place to add an announcement to the right of that. And then underneath is your class stream. To add students, you will display the class code, and they will go to classroom.google.com, enter in the code, and follow the prompts to join your class. Now let's take a look at the classwork page. This is probably where you and your students will spend most of your time in Google Classroom. Again, to the top left are the 3 lines where you can view all of your classes or return home. Also to the left are all of your topics. At the top of the screen, you'll see the Create button, where you can go to create new assignments, quizzes, questions, materials, topics, and reuse a post. To the right of that, you'll see additional icons for accessing the class's Meet, Google Calendar, and Drive folders. And then you'll see the classwork you have assigned going down the middle of the screen. Classwork can be organized by topics, and the 3 dots will allow you to rename, delete, and move topics. So topics are great for organizing classwork you post in Google Classroom, but you can also move topics as well as move assignments within topics to organize everything on that classwork page. When you move a topic, all of its content also moves. Only teachers can reorder topics, and topics only appear in student view if they have a published post. To move a topic and reorder, simply click and drag the topics section on the classwork page, or click on the 3 dots next to the topic name and then move up or move down. You can organize assignments into a topic and within a topic. Just click and drag the assignment or use the 3 dots to move up and down. You also can move assignments between topics. However, you cannot reorder the assignments at the top that are not within a topic. You have to first drag them into a topic. Use the topic list on the left of the classwork page to see all of your posts for one topic and to quickly move between topics by filtering. Click on All Topics to view all topics at once. On the People tab, you'll see co-teachers that you have invited to join your class, as well as the students that have joined your class. By checking the box next to student names, you can email, remove, or mute students. The mute option is where you would go if you have enabled class comments and a particular student has not been able to comment appropriately. You can mute the student here to remove those commenting privileges. If you have guardian summaries enabled, you also invite guardians from the People tab. And finally, the 3 dots at the end of each student's name allows you to email students, guardians, invite guardians, or remove guardians. And at the top right of your Google Classroom screen, you'll see the gear to access class settings. Your class details appear at the top and you can edit those. And below that are general class settings, including the class code, where you can go and display, copy it, reset, or disable the class code. You have controls for the stream, including whether students can post and comment, can only comment, or only teachers can post and comment. Classwork details on the stream can also be controlled. You can show complete details, condense details, or choose not to show classwork items on the stream at all. You can decide whether you want to see items that you have deleted. This is only in the teacher view, and here is also where you enable guardian access. Below that, you'll see information about your Google Meet, where you can actually generate the link and also make the link visible to students if you're going to be using Google Classroom to host your Google Meet. And finally, in the gray area, you'll see additional information about grade settings, which we'll be looking at in the advanced Google Classroom training. Now let's look at a student view of Google Classroom. The student view is very similar to the view that you see. Again, they also have the tabs at the top. They can click the stream to see a chronological list of all postings, including announcements and classwork assignments if you have that enabled. If they click on the People tab, they can see and email their classmates. On the classwork page, students also can see the topics on the left. They can view all of their work at the View Your Work icon at the top. They have icons that link to their Google Calendar and Class Drive folders. On the classwork page, students can see, open, and access materials, questions, and assignments. So what are the ways you can communicate in Google Classroom? Well, when I think about how you communicate in Google Classroom, I like to use the analogy of a one-way street and a two-way street. So your stream is your one-way street. Again, your announcements are going to appear there. If you have it enabled, questions, assignments, and materials can also appear on your stream, as well as class comments. However, on the stream, students are not going to be interacting with you. This is just a feed of all of your posts in Google Classroom. Classwork is where the true digital workflow will take place, where you send things out to students, they interact with them, and then send them back to you. That's where you will assign questions and assignments, and although materials are technically not two-way, they are organized in Classwork by topic if you choose. Additionally, private comments can only be placed within assignments that students access in Classwork. So the first pieces of Google Classroom that I want to focus on are announcements and materials, because in some ways they're very similar, but in others they're a little bit different, and I want you to understand the difference. Announcements can be used for a variety of reasons, like sharing school and class information, sending out reminders, and sharing links and documents. Remember, announcements only appear in the stream. Materials are like announcements, but you create them under the Classwork tab, and you can assign a topic to them. This helps you organize your class materials. If you are sharing documents and wish for your student to have an individual editable copy, those need to be shared via an assignment. Announcements and materials are best suited for view-only documents. Also, announcements and materials do not have due dates, so they do not appear on the calendar. Assignments and questions appear on the calendar if they have due dates. So let's delve into announcements. So on your stream at the top under your header, you can click in that space where it says share something with your class. This is where you click to enter your announcement. You can choose whether to share with multiple classes or students. You can choose whether to post immediately, schedule for a certain time, or save the draft for later. And finally, you can add attachments to announcements. But remember, you can't add attachments for students to edit, so these would be view-only attachments. When announcements appear in the stream, below them is an area for class comments if you have that enabled for students. Also, the three dots allow you to move an announcement as well as edit and delete it or copy a link to the announcement. Also, if you have saved announcements, they're going to appear at the top. You'll have to click the little arrow to see it, but here you can see I have a draft. If I decide not to use that announcement, I can click on the trash can. So now again, I want you to go and create in your Google Classroom an announcement. So in just a moment, I want you to hit pause and then go to your Google Classroom tab and create your first announcement in your new Google Classroom. Your announcement could be welcoming students to Google Classroom or sharing how excited you are about teaching them this year. Now let's look at materials. Remember, materials are created under the Classwork tab. When you click the Create button, you'll choose Material, and you must give your material a title. You can add additional information if you choose. You can also add attachments and links. But remember, attachments to students in materials will be view only. They will not be able to edit and interact with the document. You can share with one or multiple classes or students and choose a topic to organize your materials. And finally, you can post immediately or schedule for a certain day and time, or save your draft for later where you can come back to it and post when you're ready. When you add an attachment to materials, you're going to click on the Add button. And of course, you can add a link or a file from your computer and a YouTube video. But if you're going to add a file from Google Drive, you'll click Google Drive. And when the next window opens, you'll click the file that you want to add to that material post. Most likely, the item that you want to add is going to be near the top because it's probably going to be a document or something that you've edited more recently. However, you can search for a file in the search field, and you can also just go to your drive and navigate through the folders in your drive. When you've selected the file or files, click Insert to insert them into the materials post. So now let's go and look at topics. You can create topics to organize your classwork into units. You can create topics on the classwork page under the Create button or within a material, assignment, or question. So now I want you once again to go over to your Classroom tab, and I want you to create a material post sharing a resource with your students. This can really be anything from your Google Drive just to practice sharing, and you can delete it afterwards if you choose. But I want you to practice adding the material and add the topic resources to your material. Try creating the topic directly within the material post. After you've posted it, I want you to find your material in Classwork and then open the material. In an open material, you may notice that there is no easy way to return to the Classwork page. You can always hit your browser's back button to return to the page you were on previously, or if you click the class name, you'll return to the stream. Now let's take a look at questions. Questions allow students to submit answers to questions you might pose on an individual basis, or they can participate in a digital group discussion with classmates. The multiple choice feature allows you to do quick polls in class, like checks for understanding and self-assessment. When you're creating a question, you'll have to at least type something in the question field, and then you can provide additional instructions if you like. You can also add attachments to questions. You can choose whether to create a short answer or multiple choice question. You can assign to one or multiple classes or students. You can assign a due date. You can add or choose a topic when you're creating your question. And also additional settings to match your instructional needs include students can reply to each other and students can edit answer. So you'll want to consider those in the purpose of your question when you're assigning. And then when you're done, you can click Ask to post immediately. You can schedule it or save the draft for later. Once you've posted your question, you will see it on the classwork page. You can use the three dots to edit, delete, copy the link, and move your question. On the classwork page, you can see how many students have answered the question, as well as view any attachments you may have included. And to view student answers, click on View Question at the bottom. It's your turn again. I want you to create a question this time. Create an open-ended question in your classwork and schedule it for a future date. Open the question to locate the area where you can see student answers. Then, try creating a multiple choice question. Again, you can delete these questions later if you don't want to keep them, but please do practice creating both types of questions. Now we're going to look at how you'll review answers. After students have replied, you'll click on View Question from the classwork page, and this is the screen you'll see. You'll be able to click on students' names in order to see their answers. You can add comments to provide students feedback, And if you've allowed students to reply to each other, you'll also be able to see that digital discussion there. You can add grades to the right of a student's name, and when you have reviewed the question's answers, you can click return to students. That brings us to assignments. Assignments allow for true digital workflow. They allow you to provide information and materials for class activities while allowing students to turn in their assignments digitally. Remember, assignments also allow you to share individual writable documents under the Create button. Remember, assignments can be created on the Classwork tab under the Create button. So when you're creating an assignment, you must give your assignment a title, and then you can add additional instructions below there if you choose. You can add attachments to assignments as well. We'll look at the different types of attachments you can include in just a moment. Just like with questions, you can share with one or multiple classes and students, set a due date, and/or choose a topic. You can assign immediately, schedule, or save a draft. When creating assignments where you're attaching documents, you'll want to consider how you want students to interact with the document. If you choose Students Can View File, this provides them with a read-only copy. This could be used for reading passages, project descriptions, maybe even it's an article of some sort, but students can only view it. They cannot actually edit it. Students Can Edit File provides a collaborative copy that is editable by all students in the class. The Make a Copy for Each Student option provides every student with their own individual copy of the document. This is great for completing things, including templates that you've provided through Google Drive. And remember, this option is only available upon initial creation. You must choose Make a Copy for Each Student prior to posting, scheduling, or saving as a draft. You will not be able to change this if you come back and edit later. After you've posted your assignment, you can find it on the Classwork page. You'll be able to see how many students have completed the assignment. You'll be able to view your attachments, and if you click View Assignment, you can view individual student submissions. Also, use the three dots to edit, delete, copy the link to the assignment, or move the assignment up or down on the Classwork page. Okay, it's your turn again. This time, go to the Google Classroom tab, and in Classwork, click on Create and choose Assignment. Title the assignment, and again, attach a Google document, but this time let's set it to Make a Copy for Each Student. If this is not something you truly want to share with students, you can delete it later. I want you to again schedule the assignment for a future date. When you click View Assignment, you will be able to review individual student submissions. You will click on a student submission to open it in the grading tool. We'll talk more about that later. You can also grade student work on this page, return student work, and again, you can see how many students have completed the assignment. So now that you've learned about all these different features in Google Classroom, let's think about next steps. I want you to get ready to share your classroom with students. So again, if you haven't already, create a welcome announcement for students so when they join your classroom, that's the first thing they'll see. You're not going to delete this one. This one's going to be the real deal. Then, get students signed in. If it's their first time using Google Classroom, use this student presentation to talk them through signing in and how to use the platform. It's very much the same setup that you received in this training, so you should be able to talk students through this very easily with the presentation. I'm going to really quickly go through the presentation so you'll be familiar with it as well. It shows students the URL for Google Classroom and how to bookmark it to find it more easily later. and even remind students how to access the bookmarks bar. There are directions for students who have never created a Google Classroom account yet, and then it reminds them how to sign in to a Google Classroom using the plus sign and your class code. There's a reminder about the Google Classroom folder in Drive, an explanation of all the important aspects of the class's homepage, and the class's menu. Notice that students do not have a section in their menu for classes that they're teaching. There's an explanation for the class stream, as well as classwork. And then it goes through each of the different items they may see posted in Google Classroom, starting with announcements in the stream and what they can do with announcements. Next, it shows students where to find materials in Google Classroom, how to locate them in the stream and in classwork, and also how to open an attachment in a material post. And then going on to questions, how they can view questions, all the features of questions in classwork when they open them, as well as how to navigate questions once they've been answered, how to reply to classmates if you have that enabled, and how to check their grade when you've returned the question. Similarly, where to find assignments in Google Classroom, how to locate them, how to view them, and the different features, how to turn items in from an actual document, and navigating an assignment that has been turned in, and again finding the grade once it's been graded and returned by the teacher. And then there's also this one little bit, if you do not enable students can post, of course they're not going to be allowed to make posts to the stream, so you could technically delete this. But it reminds them about posting to the class stream. And this is a really good opportunity to have a conversation about digital citizenship with your students, and perhaps even a great time to practice that in a safe, closed environment. Another next step you might consider is inviting guardians. You can invite parents and guardians to receive guardian summaries so they can keep up with what their child is doing in your classroom. This is a great way to increase parent communication and awareness of classroom activities and learning. Remember, you must enable guardian access in classroom settings. You can do this by going to the gear. Guardian email summaries include missing work that's late at the time the email was sent, upcoming work that's due today and tomorrow for daily emails, or work that's due in the upcoming week for weekly emails. Also, they can see class activity, including announcements, assignments, and questions recently posted by teachers. Guardian email summaries do not include two-way communication. Parents cannot respond to you via the summary. They must communicate with you via email or whatever other communication protocol you have set. They also do not get access to students' grades in the Google Classroom Grades tab. And finally, when Guardian access is enabled, this does not grant them direct access to your Google Classroom. They are only receiving a summary via email. The first teacher to invite parents will need to click on Invite Guardians on the People tab. If parents have already been invited by another teacher, you will see an email address. Changes to the parents that you have invited can be made using the three dots, including removing guardians. And just remember, when one teacher enters in a guardian for a student, that guardian is linked to that student. So any other classes that that student is enrolled in, that guardian is automatically shared and that information is already there. When guardians join Classroom, they will receive regular automatic email summaries for each of their students. They can choose the frequency of the emails, daily or weekly, and unsubscribe at any time. Parents will receive and must accept an email invitation to receive updates. Check out the gray space for complete details about guardian summaries. So you've learned a lot about the ins and outs of Google Classroom features, but maybe you're thinking there's more you want to know, or you might have a feature request for them. So you will want to click on that question mark in Google Classroom. In the bottom left-hand corner, click on the gray question mark and a menu will pop up. What's new will take you to find out what's new in Google Classroom. You can click on this to see updates that have been added each month and learn about new features. There are new updates coming out this month, which I'll share with you in just a moment, but you can check back there periodically. You can also report an issue or send feedback to Google. That's my favorite option. So let Google know if something isn't working right and have your screenshots ready because they ask for them and that will help them solve your problem more easily. Also, if you don't see something you think you need in Google Classroom, or if you have an idea for how to make it more user-friendly, use this option to send your ideas to Google. Just so you know, a lot of the past updates that have happened were based on many teachers' requests, so don't be afraid to share your voice. And finally, get help. The Help Center and the Help Community provide you with more support. You can search topics of common issues in the Google Classroom Help Center. Use this option to pose a question in the Google Classroom Help Community, and that's where other Google Classroom users and Google employees can reply to you to help answer your question. So here are some brand new features coming to a Google Classroom near you. Class invite links are supposed to be rolling out this week. So in addition to email invites and class codes, teachers can now invite students with a link. To-do updates, this is where teachers and students can open their to-do page from the classes page. And also when I was on the Google blog, it looks like the format might have changed a little bit. However, this has not changed in my Google Classroom yet, so sometimes these updates roll out in different districts and different domains on a different timetable, so you may have them and I may not, or vice versa. Just keep looking for those updates. Also, Applied Digital Skills. If you use Applied Digital Skills, it's now better integrated with Google Classroom. Applied Digital Skills is an amazing project-based learning platform from Google where students perform tasks using Google's tools. So for instance, one of them is plan an event, and they actually have to create a budget and a timetable and all these other parts of planning an event, and they'll use Sheets and Google Docs and others of Google's tools, and so they're learning about the tools as they're completing this project. And the great thing about it is you don't have to know anything about these assignments because everything is a video tutorial set up directly in Applied Digital Skills. So this is a very good place to start. If your students are not real savvy in the Google products, check this out because it might be for you. And then coming soon, Classroom will be available in 10 more languages. Teachers will be able to share an assignment with a link. I'm interested to see how that's going to work. And then for your admins, they'll be able to review audit logs and classroom analytics from that tech admin side of Google. So you might have some questions, and that's okay. We might have some answers. Email Ashley or Maggie for additional help with Google Classroom.